Hi, I'm Mark, a teacher of history. Thanks for watching this video, the origins of which go back 12 years. And when Donald Trump threw his hat in the ring to be the Republican contender for the president in 2012, I was teaching an AP, Advanced Placement College Level World History class. And it was a good class. We could talk about a lot of things. And I said, okay, well, Donald Trump just threw his hat in the ring. What do you think about that? And one of the kids said fascist. And because that's a word that's so overused and thrown around when someone doesn't agree with you and it's misused, I decided to do something on the board, read a spontaneous lesson. So I said, take a piece of paper and fold it, landscape. Then we made 3 lines. The top line wrote Hitler and Nazis. Line underneath that, Republicans, President Bush and President Reagan. And under that, Democrats, President Clinton and President Obama. And then what we did is we just made hash marks with everything that the kids knew about the Nazis. So I said, okay, what do we know about the Nazis? And the first thing that people will say is, well, they hated Jewish people, or what's called anti-Semitism. Okay? Well, I think we can easily decide which one of the political parties gets the fascist check for that. And here's something really odd that I tell my students. When I was in high school and college in the 1980s, if you said anything critical of the state of Israel, the Jewish people, you were labeled a Nazi and a fascist. Fast forward 40 years, and if you say anything to defend the Jewish people or the state of Israel, you're called a fascist and a Nazi. So it would seem that there's a particular group of ideologues in this country who can't decide what they think is Nazi or fascism and just sort of change their views every couple years with whatever's intellectually trendy. Okay, a second thing that the students said about Hitler is, of course, World War II. And they said, well, that would be like the Republicans with President Bush, because at this time, you know, we were in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I said, okay, that's true, but it was Kennedy and Johnson who got us into Vietnam. And Ho Chi Minh, the leader of North Vietnam, wasn't sitting there in Hanoi saying he wanted to destroy the American dogs and devils. And he didn't have a history of using chemical weapons in war and against his own people and giving money to terrorists. So the Republicans generally like a stronger military, but at the same point, the kids that are going to go and fight in the military are more likely to be Republican than Democrat. So if we had to give it to someone, maybe we'd put that check in the Republican column. Now, some people will say, well, what about World War II? Well, the Japanese were going to hit us no matter what because we were cutting off their oil and iron. So it didn't matter if Roosevelt or anyone else was in there. I don't think that would be a fair comparison. Okay, I asked the students then, how did Hitler get to power? He used what kind of politics? Identity politics, which is Hitler's, you're a Jew, or you have a quarter Jew, or a 16th Jew. They actually had some very complicated charts to figure out how much of a Jew you were. You're a gypsy, you're this, you're that. And if there's one political party that is all about identity politics, not about the person, not about the content of their character, but about identity, that would be the Democratic Party. Okay, here's something. Hitler had Göring, who was a hero from World War I in Germany with the Luftwaffe, the Air Force. He had him control the farms and the farming and the agriculture and what people could produce. Now, there's one political party, one of the 2 political parties that really tells you what to eat or what to grow. It's not going to be the Republicans. Okay, Hitler had his followers boycott Jewish-owned businesses. Again, we can see who that is, or destroy them. This is the famous Night of the Broken Glass, or Kristallnacht, right? Awful chapter in human history. Okay, one of the things Hitler wanted to do was reunite all the German people, because after World War I, the German Empire and the Austrian Empire were carved up, as long as, well, the Russian Empire and Turkish as well. So there were Germanic people living in other countries. Now, the Sudetenland was the western part of Czechoslovakia, and Sudeten is German. It means the southern land. And there are over 3 million Germans living there. And so if you saw the movie Sound of Music, that's what this reunification of the German peoples was. Hitler wanted to get the Austrian people because they were Germanic.
Is there a more beautiful expression of what is good in this country of ours than the innocent voices of our children? Oh, come now, Baron. Would you have us believe that Austria alone holds the monopoly on virtue?
Herr Zeller, some of us prefer Austrian voices raised in song to ugly German threats.
The ostrich buries his head in the sand, and sometimes in the flag. Perhaps those who would warn you that the Anschluss is coming, and it is coming, Captain, perhaps they would get further with you by setting their words to music.
If the Nazis take over Austria, I have no doubt, Herr Zeller, that you will be the entire trumpet section.
You flatter me, Captain.
Oh, how clumsy of me. I meant to accuse you.
Hitler wanted to get the Austrian people because they were Germanic, even though there was a different political entity before World War II, and the Austrian people eagerly joined with Hitler. Many of them sided with Hitler and wanted to join Hitler because the Austrian Empire had shrunk so badly, and it was sort of a way for them to get strong again. And Hitler was actually Austrian, not German, but he fought with a German unit in World War I. Okay, so the Czechs...
Slovakia was tough. It had a good army. It had good equipment. It had one of the finest munitions plants in the world, the Skoda Works, which Hitler wanted very badly. It had the incorruptible President Hacha. It had a military alliance with France, and France had a military alliance with Britain. Hitler had to move carefully. He had to find excuses to take Czechoslovakia one piece at a time. He found his excuse in the Sudetenland, the portion of Czechoslovakia bordering Germany. Sudetenland was heavily populated by people of German origin, although they had never been a part of Germany itself. That was Hitler's cue. Konrad Heinlein was their Führer. The people of the Sudetenland were told by Heinlein that they should be liberated. They were told Hitler was their liberator. The Nazis smuggled over their standard softening up equipment, blackjacks. And when the Czechs were beaten up, trying to combat, Hitler protested, claiming that the Germans were being persecuted and threatened war unless he got the Sudetenland.
As the victims. So which political party gets minorities to rise up and destroy things for political points and then plays the victim when these people are hurt? I think we know which one that is. Okay. Hitler demonized his enemies, which all dictators do, right? They want to control your speech and they want to create an enemy. And they just said the most awful things about their enemies. Okay, look at all these hysterical people in the media that say, oh, Trump's like another Hitler. He was around for 4 years. We didn't have concentration camps. Okay, he didn't suppress information. Oh, the Germans did that too, didn't they? Not only banned books, but they suppressed things. They didn't let you speak out against the government. When you look at our universities, do they keep out liberal thinkers or conservative thinkers? I wonder which one it is. Okay. Very big with the propaganda. When Trump was elected in 2016, and I had another AP class, and they were following the election very carefully, and they were all surprised. And they say, what's going to happen now? I said, well, they're going to call him mentally unfit, not smart. They're going to say, maybe he's crazy. Oh, he's not healthy enough to work. All right? That's the kind of stuff they're going to do. The Nazis indoctrinated children and did needless and horrific medical procedures upon them. I think we know which political party does that. They also tried to get people to revolt in this country, the Nazis. My father got into the U.S. Navy in World War II by busting a Nazi spy that was put ashore in the South by submarine. And her job was to instigate rebellion with the black population in the South, much like the Nazis were able to get the Irish to rebel against the English in World War I. So if you look at one particular party that tries to use propaganda and whip up people to rebellion in this country, I don't think it's the Republicans. Hitler also believed in the classless society. He wanted, just a group of sort of self-appointed experts to rule, and everybody else was in one class. I think we know which political party that was. So everything from controlling the information to the government as like controller of your life, classless society, the making people demons, okay, to make them your enemy. There are so many parallels there to the Democratic Party. Now, that's not to say, and this is what I tell the students, I'm not saying the Democrats are Nazis. Okay? But if you look at the things that Hitler did and the ideas that he put into practice, maybe a little more with the, because remember, National German Socialist or National Socialist German Workers' Party, Nationalsozialiste, so that's where the contraction Nazi comes from. Democrats are much more into socialism than Republicans. So there's just some food for thought. And again, I'm not saying that anyone in our political climate today is a Nazi, okay? But it is a badly misused term by people who are just ignorant of what the Nazis were or just too full of emotional imbalance to frame a proper argument. Thank you very much for listening to this. Bye-bye.
Jawohl, die Lage ist aussichtslos, aber sozusagen beschissen.
Dafür möchte man ihn an die Wand stellen!